Alrighty, guys, welcome into the aftershock. We're going to give everybody just a couple seconds to get connected here, and I'm going to get my screens going so that I can interact with you guys as well. All right, I'm getting text messages from people about what to talk about on the aftershock this week. I swear this thing is developing into like a whole separate kind of show, isn't it? Alrighty, going to I hit refresh and it actually just gave me back the compute this show. That's weird. I want the current live show that we're watching right now. All right. Facebook.com/Schrock Innovations. Oh, I like that I was in their top feed for like all of Facebook apparently, so that's kind of cool. But I just wanted to find the live video that I'm doing right now so that I can make sure that it's actually broadcasting and that you can all hear me. Okay, here we go. Videos, scrolling down. There's the live video. My goodness, they make it so difficult. Good morning, Cindy. Good morning, Mary. Top fan Mary, good morning. Hey, guys, don't worry if you lose your badge because you're cutting back on your interactions. We still love you here. Mitch, good to have you. All right, Roger's back. So, yeah, here we go. We're getting some people back in here. All right, so this last week, lots of developments. We skimmed over a lot of them on the surface on the program. But the big thing here to think about, guys, is, again, control what you can control. And the constant drumbeat in the news is, here come the executive orders, and here comes this, and here comes that. And I suppose, yeah, if someone's going to do something that you don't agree with, it's better to do it in an executive order than through legislation. Because an executive order can just be undone, like an imperial president, just, and it's gone. That was one of the ways that Trump was able to actually deregulate things so quickly, is because a lot of the Obama regulation was done with executive order. So that's one side of this. The other side of this, guys, is, again, control what you can control. I mean, I can't do anything about what executive order Joe Biden is going to sign. I don't have any control over what gets brought up in front of Congress. I don't even know who the leader of the Republican Party is right now, for heaven's sake. I had a thought on the way in this morning. Obviously, in the short run, creating a third party is suicide for whatever political party does it, right? So if you decide to vote, we talked about this last week, if you vote Libertarian, the Libertarians are still going to lose, and the Republicans are also going to lose, and the Democrats will stay united and win. The assumption is the Democrats will stay united. For one election, they probably will. Maybe two elections, they probably will. But then eventually, there's going to be a fracture there. And then they're going to segment up, and we'll have four parties. But everyone's like, what's Trump going to do? And I thought, my gosh, everyone's like, he's going to start a media empire. What if he chose to start a political party? I was like, oh, wow. It would be banned from every social media platform first. So I was just like, it just made me, wow. I was like, okay, that would be a crazy move. That he could leverage, millions and millions of voters basically to go vote in local elections for people who are America First people in local elections. Oh my gosh! Imagine the changes that would happen in that situation. All right. So I have a specific request from the family members of a Schrock employee to explain more about Signal. All right. So Signal is an app. So you can install it on an iPhone or an Android device. I'm not sure if there's like a Signal website. Let me, let's see, Signal website. I don't know that there is. There is. Okay, let me go there. Support, donate, get Signal. Okay, nope. So they have a website, but you use it on your phone. There's not a website to interact with it. It's a phone thing. So the best way that I can explain Signal is if you use text messaging on your phone, you can use Signal. Signal is a text messaging app. That's what it is. It allows you to send text-based messages back and forth. Also, it can be a replacement for FaceTime. You can do real-time video chat. You can also do calling. You can use it as literally if you have an iPhone that has no cell service. It's just on Wi-Fi. You can literally install Signal and you can use Signal to call people over the internet. Now, I did try to place a Signal call yesterday. I can tell you the call quality was not great. However, one of the things about Signal, the thing that why everybody is flocking to Signal is because Signal is, at its core, 100% completely secure. So let me look this up real quick. Who owns Signal? I looked this up last week and I can't remember who owns it. Developers, Signal Messenger, Signal Release. That's who. Let's see. Brain Action. Let's see. Who owns Signal? Doing my duck search here. I can't allow you to stop me at. Sorry. All right. What is Signal? Who owns Signal? Signal was developed by the Signal Foundation and Signal Messenger LLC, which is a nonprofit company. Signal was created by Moxie Marlinspike. Moxie Marlinspike? Is that a real name? This is like Thor Schrock. Moxie Marlinspike? That's okay. Anyway, the American cryptographer and currently CEO of Signal Messenger and WhatsApp co-founder Brian Acton. So, it was created by two Americans. One of them was also involved in the creation of WhatsApp. We'll talk about why you should you should stop using WhatsApp here in a second if you're using that one for secret messaging right now, because it's not so secret now that Facebook bought it. But Signal offers end-to-end encryption. So, let me. The best way I can explain this would be like if you ship a package via UPS, right? You know what's in the box, and the person who receives the box knows what's in the box. But the people in the middle, the delivery service, has no idea what's in the box. They don't open the box, they don't look in the box, they don't know what's in the box. So the contents of the message that are in the box sent from your cell phone to your friend's cell phone is completely secure. Nobody knows what the content of that message is because it's encrypted from end to end. Okay? Not even the people at Signal know what's in the box. Just like UPS doesn't know what's in your box. Even the makers of the program specifically designed the system so even they don't have the ability to read your messages. Okay? So that's the first thing. The second thing is when you add a VPN on top of this now. So Signal gives you secure communications where no one, not even your telephone company, nobody even knows. Nobody knows what was said. You may not even be able to track who you talked to. So now, the trouble is your telco or your service provider for your phone knows that you're sending data using the Signal app on your phone. Okay? How do you stop them from knowing that? You install a VPN on your phone. So this is another layer. So now what you have done is you've shipped a box via UPS to the FedEx store. And then you've shipped that box from the FedEx store to your friend. The FedEx store knows not where the box came from. UPS knows not where the box goes. You've created a cutout. And that's what a VPN does. It creates a cutout where your signal gets bounced across all these different servers all over the internet so that nobody has the ability to know where the signal originated from. And I won't get into all the details. There are still ways that some data, someone will know you have, for example, Google knows you have Signal on your phone. They don't know what you're doing with Signal, but there's some other leaky things. Like, for example, when you use Signal, do you use voice text? Do you talk to your phone for your text messages? Your voice is being sent to Google servers, turned into text, and sent back to your phone. So in essence, one side of your conversation could still be monitored by Google. Do you use Bitmoji and all the other little keyboard add-ons? Those are potential data leaks. So it's not perfect, right? So here's the thing, guys. When the founders created the Constitution, they didn't say, in order to form a perfect union, we're going to do this. They said in order to form a more perfect union. So in the same way that they realized that there is no way to create something that is perfect from scratch, or even maybe at all, there is no such thing as perfect privacy. And I'm not going to have you guys go crazy trying to give yourselves perfect privacy. But we can create more perfect privacy, can we not? So Signal, if you have an Android phone, when you install Signal on your Android phone, it's going to ask if it can be the default messaging app, and you want to say yes. You can always change a default app later. So if you decide you don't like Signal, you can always go back to your old text messaging app that came with the phone. But most of the text messaging apps that come with the phones aren't anything that special. They don't do a ton. So when you replace it with Signal, my text messages, when I get someone texts me now, Signal pops up. If that user is not using Signal, so if my wife, who let's say doesn't have Signal on her phone because she has an iPhone, She sends me a message through iMessage. It comes through just like a regular text message would have always come to me before. I'm just using a different way to read text messages. So Signal pops it up, and I can talk back and forth. People who are not using Signal, they are represented as an unlocked padlock, meaning that the conversation you're having with this person can be monitored. On the other hand, if someone is using Signal, you see a padlock on the screen underneath each message, indicating that this is an encrypted end-to-end message that cannot be read. So why is using Signal important? Do I really need to get that paranoid, Thor? All I'm saying is, headline, if you had a cell phone on you at the Capitol riot, police are going to talk to you. So anyone who entered that building at all that had a cell phone on them, at all, they know they were in that building. If they would have been running a VPN on their cell phone, they'd have had no idea. Now, I'm not saying that you need to go out and riot, especially don't do something stupid and go to the Cap. Don't even go to the Capitals. Anybody watching me right now, if you're planning on going to a rally at a state house or something, do not do that. Don't even go. Don't be a part of it. It's a setup. It's a total setup. Don't go, okay? So anyway, the long story short here, do you really need to have Signal? Well, number one, as we've mentioned before, every little bit of data that you give these tech giants, they monetize that data. They use your information in order to make money in some way. They use the information, and there's nothing inherently evil about this, right? They're giving you a free service and taking the data that they collect from that free service and using that data as a business would to make money. Now, in the past, we've had a pretty permissible, as a country, have had a pretty permissible attitude toward this. I like to use Gmail, therefore I don't mind if Google reads all my email. It's not a human reading it after all. It's just a computer reading it for what I'm talking about so that they can deliver better ads to me. And I don't really look at the ads anyway, so what do I care? And I don't mind if I use this, and I don't mind if I use that. And then eventually you realize, though, all the data that these big companies have allowed them to stalk you around the internet so that when the day ever might come where you decide, maybe it'd be best if I just didn't have someone looking over my shoulder right now, you realize that there's no way to turn it off. You're a prisoner. And that's what a lot of people are realizing right now. That where do you want me to go instead of Facebook? They've got the best platform and the best audience out there anywhere. Give me a better platform. Give me any other platform. Doesn't exist. How are we supposed to continue to do the show like we do it without the video platform? I could record the show and then air it later, but then there's no interaction. Or I could interact on the side afterwards, but I can't interact in the videos with you. So anyway, that's what Signal is. And the way it's encrypted, when the message leaves your phone, it goes through the internet, through the servers. It could go to Google, it could go to the NSA, it could go to your telco. It doesn't matter. It's encrypted and they can't read it. I am old enough to remember the late 1990s when the Pretty Good Protection, the first encryption programs for consumers, was released. And the FBI had a fit and fell in it because they insisted, Bill Clinton was going to wanted a law that said you must give law enforcement a backdoor into all encryption software. Well, it's a radical concept, guys. I say that kind of tongue-in-cheek, but no, it's really a radical concept to some people. That the government has no right to know anything about what you're doing. At all. Literally, you have a right for them not to know what you're doing. And the framework has been shifted to, like, I don't have anything to hide, so I don't really need encryption, to, well, why do you need encryption? Do you have something to hide? Why do you need to use the Signal app? Are you planning an insurrection at a Capitol building? No, I'm not planning an insurrection at a Capitol building. But if I happen to talk to somebody who happens to go to the rally, who happens to be at a rally where somebody else causes a problem, like at the Capitol, I don't want to lose my job. That's what's happening to people. I don't want to lose my life insurance policy. If that can happen to a Major League Baseball player, AIG canceled his life insurance policy because he posted positive things about Trump on social media. We don't want your business. What do you do with that? So at some point you have to say, you know what, why do you have an unlisted phone number? You're worried that someone's going to find you and call you? Huh? It doesn't stop the telemarketers anyway. So it's the same thing, guys. So, our position, our default position at Schrock now is we are going to provide you with the tools and the capabilities to protect your privacy first. And if you choose to lower those protections, that is your free God-given choice. And God bless you. Whatever you want to do, it's your computer. We're not the tech overlords telling you how to use your computer. We're never going to be the tech overlords telling you how to use your computer. We're going to give you suggestions, just like we always do. And if you choose a different suggestion for your computer, that's fine. So let me tell you real quick, something you can do right now on your Windows computer to improve your privacy. This is for Windows PCs running Windows 10, okay? You hit the Start button in the lower left-hand corner. This is going to be super complicated. You want to get a pen. It's really, really easy, okay? You tap Start. You type the word privacy. It'll pop up on the screen, privacy settings. You click on that. There's 4 sliders. Turn them all off. Bing, 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 turn them off. You want to really get bold, you can start going down that list on the left of all the different things on your computer that your computer has permission to do. The deeper you dig, the more freaked out you're going to get. Why does the Xbox companion need access to your webcam and your microphone? I understand why Zoom needs access. I understand why the camera app needs access to my camera. Wow. But why do all these other programs have access to my camera? What are they doing? Why is it that every Windows computer by default allows any app on your computer to enable or disable your wireless radios on the computer? Literally, you can turn on airplane mode and an app can come along and turn it off? That seems weird. It's a slider. Off. Can't do that anymore. And the intent behind these things, guys, is not nefarious. The intent is somewhere somebody is an idiot and they're trying to get on Wi-Fi and their Wi-Fi is turned off. And we'd really like to let the Wi-Fi app turn the Wi-Fi back on because please, for the love of the sweet baby Jesus, there are some people who don't know where that's at. And it would just be easier if it would just fix itself, right? That's the intent behind that switch. Learn where your Wi-Fi switch is at. Turn off your Wi-Fi. Or no, don't turn off your Wi-Fi because you'll lose the signal right now. Don't do that. But turn off the control. So hit Start, type privacy, and then turn off the 4 sliders that are right in front of your face. They don't do anything but send telemetric data back to Microsoft about how you use your computer. And they allow Microsoft to deliver better ads to you. That's the thing. The reason that Facebook freaked out when Apple said we're no longer going to allow Facebook to identify individual iPhones and who's running the iPhone so that they can better target ads, Facebook flipped out and they tried to rally small businesses to their cause, of all people, by saying, hey, small businesses, you're not going to be able to reach your audiences because of the decision that Apple made. Tell Apple how you feel. Instead, Facebook got a riot sheet read to them about, oh yeah, well we have built a business or built a following of over 3,000 people, but if I want to reach more than 300 of them with a post, you make me pay. I built that audience, not you. Why can't I talk to my own audience unless I pay? That's why it's important to check back at Schrock Innovations on Facebook periodically if you do use Facebook. Facebook.com/Schrock Innovations. You know you're already here. But if you check back periodically, you'll actually get updates. You'll see things that you don't see in your feed. And the more often you come back to Schrock Innovations Facebook page, the more often you're likely to see emergency things in your feed. Because the last 2 weeks, we haven't boosted anything on Facebook. We usually spend about $300 a week minimum on Facebook. And we haven't spent in the last 2 weeks. We're getting emails from Facebook. Hey, you boost this post, your engagement is down. Kara calls me, Thor, our Facebook engagements are like 97% down. And that's the thing. So we're making a choice not to spend the money, but our engagements are going down. Why is that? Well, we're just not getting in people's feeds anymore. So anyway, those are some simple things that you can do with your Windows PC to improve the security. And guys, the deeper you dig into the privacy settings, the more shocked you're going to be. Every app has its own privacy policy. Individual apps have their own privacy settings. I mean, even the Signal app has privacy settings. The Privacy app has privacy settings. So, keep digging. You'll find more. Be careful what you turn off, though, because sometimes you will have a negative impact. So when I say, for example, we are maximizing the privacy settings on computers, in the browsers specifically, we are maximizing the settings to the point as high as they can go, after which things will break. So they are not fully maxed out. We would not recommend fully maxing them out, because if you block all cookies, for example, you can't use shopping websites. If you require every connection for every website you go to be on a secure connection, some websites just aren't going to work anymore because they're not secure. Some images aren't going to show up on websites because they're not hosted from a secure server. So we don't turn settings on that are going to blow things up for you, but we are going to turn on the maximum privacy settings that we can turn on to keep your information safe. Because in the past we were just saying accept. So we were already making this decision for every customer, the default decision for every customer at Schrock. Now we're just changing what the defaults are. All right, let's take a look and see what we got for comments here this morning. All righty, good morning, Cindy. I'm back with coffee in hand and enjoying, Roger says. Oh, good to have you, Roger. All right, Richard's here. Happy Sunday, Thor, says Janet. Happy Sunday, Janet. Hey, Thor, I'm curious. We know that there's no free lunch. If Signal is free, what do they get if I use them? Well, they do solicit donations, and they are a nonprofit organization. So let's just ask this question real quick. Let's go to our Duck browser and say, or a Duck search engine, excuse me, and say, Duck has a browser too. Oh, if you haven't tried the Duck app on your phone, install the DuckDuckGo app and just do some fun. Go to some pages you normally go to. It pops up and tells you who is trying to follow you to those pages. Google tried to follow you. Facebook tried to follow you. This ad network you've never heard of before tried to follow you. It is creepy. And it gives you a privacy score for the website you're on. Schrock Innovations gets a B+, which is really good considering a lot of places get Ds. So we don't collect that much. The reason we get a B+ is we have Google Analytics on the site because we have to comply with Google's terms. Every website does. But yeah, so Google follows you everywhere. But all the others, you can literally use the Duck app to search for stuff, and it'll tell you who's following and who they blocked. You don't have to switch to it entirely, but it's fun to play with on a weekend if you're bored. All right. How does Signal make money? How does Signal make money? Number one setting. All righty. There's a little wonder that users would be quick to switch to apps as Signal because WhatsApp, which is now owned by Facebook, WhatsApp used to be exactly what Signal is now, and Facebook bought it, and they said you have basically, if you want to keep using WhatsApp, you have to let Facebook see what you're doing so that we can monetize it. And people are like, WhatsApp was used by Hong Kong protesters, and if Facebook gets the data, that means China can get the data, so they're like, nope, canceling their WhatsApp accounts, all moving to Signal. It's a little wonder that users would be quick to switch to Signal, apps that respect your data privacy and won't trade it to make money. So how do they make money and cover their operating costs? Here we take a look at Signal Messenger and find out how they generate revenue. The Signal Foundation, a nonprofit organization. The foundation has been the development. Okay, the focus of the foundation is the development of this app. Signal Messenger LLC, software organization, a subset of the Signal Foundation, is an open source project and as such doesn't operate the way a regular software company does. That means that developers can offer patches and solutions to improve Signal's features and security protocols without it amassing a huge bill. Also, being a nonprofit organization, Signal doesn't have to rely on generating profits and running after the buck. Whatever the operational and upgrade costs they do, or whatever operational and upgrading costs they do, are taken care of by donations and grants. So who are these angel donors who have been so generous enough to facilitate Signal's rise over the years? Here's a list of the foundations that keep Signal afloat who kept it afloat in its initial days and have helped it come up to be a viable alternative to WhatsApp and other messengers. The initial grants they got from the Shuttleworth Foundation, the Knight Foundation, and the Open Technology Fund, which gave $3 million from 2013 to 16. Brian Acton, the founder of Signal Technology Foundation, he took up a loan of $50 million to help get Signal Foundation off the ground. This came right after he left WhatsApp, the company he had co-founded, and its parent company Facebook over disputes regarding the latter's plans to monetize WhatsApp. So literally, Signal was born because a big tech company gobbled up a little tech company and said, now we're going to corrupt everything it stood for. Yay! The guy that sold out was like, I don't think so. So he created Signal. That loan of $50 million increased to $105 million in 2018 and helped Signal accelerate and broaden its mission, develop further, and bolster its security protocols. That is a zero-interest loan due to be repaid in February of 2068. It appears people and organizations are very optimistic about Signal's ambitions and plans for the future, as are we. All right, the Elon, Tesla founder and world's richest man, was recently quite upset with WhatsApp's new terms of service, and he told all of his followers to switch to Signal. Use Signal. In another tweet, he mentioned that he had donated to Signal a year ago and would be donating more. As if that wasn't enough, his recommendation led to a staggering 1,100% rise in Signal stocks. Let's see. I think that was actually not the Signal company. That was some other company named Signal that went up. So that might be that might need to be corrected on this report. Signal's fundings and donations are only expected because nonprofit companies don't have stocks. Just saying, that's not how nonprofits work. Signal's fundings and donations are only expected to rise in the future as their use on multiple platforms. Being a nonprofit organization, Signal's focus on keeping user data secure goes beyond the cheap schemes that companies like WhatsApp employ, which changes its privacy policies depending on where the money is. For securing people's privacy isn't just a matter of money, it's the whole philosophy that Signal operates on, and people appreciate it greatly. So there you go. That's how Signal makes money. They get donations, grants, and rich philanthropists apparently, and maybe a little bit of guilt from the guy that sold out on WhatsApp, you know. So there is a donate button in Signal that you can use to send a monetary donation if you feel compelled to do so. All right. Trump will pardon himself, Keith says. I don't know. And again, it's beyond my control, so I don't really care. You know, pardon himself for what? If he pardons himself, is he admitting he committed a crime? Pardon himself for what? You know? Thank you for the info this morning. I spent the last hour adding Signal and Telegram and invited my circle to join. Oh, this is Rick and not Cindy. You know, Rick's like, I don't want anyone to think Cindy's doing this because no, this is Rick. Rick's doing this. But Rick got rid of his Facebook account and I just use my wife's one now because why do we need two? We just cut our interactions by 50%. This is a conversation I had with somebody yesterday in the Des Moines Service Center. The best way that you can hurt big tech is to cut your daily interactions. So think of it this way. If you normally check Facebook twice a day, or once, let's just say it's once a day. You check Facebook once every day for something. Try to check it once every other day. Literally just skip a day. Just one day, and then go back and you can check it the next day. And don't fall down a Facebook rabbit hole, you know, watching cat videos and stuff, because time spent on app is another metric. Go in, get the information you want, get out. And what you will see is Facebook will notice that your time in the app and your time on Facebook has dropped by 50%. Not because you're consuming less content, but because you're not coming back every day anymore. That hurts their metrics. Their metrics going down hurts their stock price. That stock price going down hurts the company and causes the company to behave differently. That's the idea. So you can influence these companies. There's a reason that Jack Dorsey is talking about building a new social media platform. I don't know if I talked about this last week, but we all probably heard that Trump was worth about 88% of the social media interactions. Or sorry, it was roughly 50% of all interactions on Twitter were either direct Trump tweets or reactions or comments regarding a tweet by the president. So that was half of all the interaction daily on Twitter. Then after they banned him, Rush Limbaugh, Mark Levin, Dan Bongino, Thor Schrock, no, I'm just kidding. We all left Twitter, right? And now they're saying that those people were responsible for 33% of the daily interactions on Twitter. Ironically, it looks like 88% of the daily interactions on Twitter were from or with conservative people. Now they're all gone. They left voluntarily. They didn't get banned. Well, Trump got banned. They all left voluntarily. They took out 88% of Twitter's daily interactions. If you still own Twitter stock, don't take your financial advice from the computer guy, but yeah, I wouldn't hold on to that. All right. Third party will take too long. Better to primary. Yeah, developing a third party is gonna be a multi-election event, where basically it will be absolute political chaos for probably 2 or 3 election terms. So 12 years to really build a new party, and get it down grassroots into the local levels and everything else. It's not. And people from the Libertarian Party will say, "Hey, we're already in the grassroots. We have candidates in every election," and they always lose, every time. No, it's not really a great bandwagon to hitch onto. If only all the Trump people became libertarians. Well, honestly, a lot of Trump people are not libertarians. This is something that's really interesting. If you look at the Trump support base, a lot of them aren't even conservatives. Literally, Trump found a way to bring blue collar people back into the Republican Party. That's why stimulus checks are such a big deal. That's why Trump said, make it a $2,000 check. Again, probably a poorly timed political thing. Couldn't have just taken the win on the $600 check. He had to say something, and then all of a sudden it became a weapon to use against Republicans in Georgia. And so basically, it could have cost us the Georgia Senate seats. That one tweet. But who knows? Anyway, long story short, primarying is definitely a way to do it. Now the problem is finding the right people to put in the primary. That's the problem, is getting people that will follow the rules, that will do the job the way it's meant to be done. Because there's a lot of hate out there right now, guys, both directions. So there's a temptation, well, I'm going to run for office, and when I run for office, I ain't prosecuting anybody, or whatever. Or I'm going to do this to the left. Anyone on the left that commits a crime is going to get life in prison, and anyone on the right that commits a crime is going to get released with no bail. How do you like it now? How does it feel? That's a zero-sum game, because eventually you're out of power. No one's in power forever. So eventually you lose power, and then the other side does that back to you. Well, one side does it all the time, and the other side never does it. And therefore, the one side always loses because the other side is willing to do what needs to be done to win. I get that. I hear that. But there are some core basic principles and concepts you can't compromise on. The rule of law is the rule of law. You can't compromise on that. Yes, I know that some people already have compromised on that. Those people need to be removed from office. The standard needs to be set. Politicians are always going to be politicians, and they're always going to tell you what you need to hear to get elected. That's what politicians do, right? If I ran for an office right now and all of a sudden no one wants to use the Signal app, do you think I'm going to be telling you to use the Signal app if I'm a politician? Probably not. I'll tell you what in the polling says, and of course everyone says they're so sick of that, but then when a politician comes along like Trump that doesn't even look at the polling and just says what's on his mind, well, we see how that ended up. So, would you even want to run for president right now? If you were somebody who was qualified to be the president? I'm certainly not qualified. I wouldn't, if I was, I wouldn't want to run. Good God, the things that they're going to do to you. All right. Good morning from Grand Island. Thanks for the Compute This show. Where else would you hear the phrase stinkier duck fart? We aim to please. Compute This, your source of the stinkiest duck farts on the internet. Good morning, Nan. Important. If you use Signal Map, make sure to switch your default app to Signal or you might not get your messages. That's right. So basically, I did switch my default app to Signal, guys. And here's the other thing to pay attention to when you use Signal. When you send a message, it puts a little check mark in the lower right-hand corner. And there's an option when you first install it. It says, do you want to receive a receipt when the other person receives the message? And when they receive the message, you get another little check mark in the lower right-hand corner. Now, that works really well for people who are on Android. It doesn't work at all for communicating between Android and iPhone, unless the iPhone is also on the Signal app. I sent some messages to my operations manager yesterday using Signal. He has a company phone. He is now company-wide. We're using Signal now for text messaging. And 2 messages that I sent him were just never delivered. He just never received them. When I went back and looked, there were no check marks on those messages. So it was telling me it didn't send, but I didn't understand that at the time. So pay attention to those check marks. If the check marks are missing, your message didn't get sent. part of that is right now Signal servers are just getting killed because so many people are joining, guys. So be patient with them as they're a nonprofit organization. They don't exactly have the money of God to come down and build a whole new data center or something. Alrighty, still here in Phoenix, Nancy. Good audio, thank you, Winston. I appreciate it. How can I block text from Gmail addresses? Samsung Galaxy S9. Everything I find doing internet searches regards blocking phone numbers. Well, text messages come from phone numbers, or they come from SMS gateways. Email addresses, you can send a text message using an email account. You can send it's like you put in your phone number, and it used to be like I was on Sprint, so it was at sprintmessaging.com, and then you could send an email as a text. I'm not aware of any way to particularly block that, honestly. It sounds like you have a pretty specific problem, though. If Gmail addresses are sending you a lot of junk text messages. I don't have cell service at my house and was using WhatsApp with a friend using Wi-Fi. I just wondered if Signal would work. Yeah, Signal works just fine over Wi-Fi. That's the whole point. It will. Not only does it work, it works just like WhatsApp. The guy who created Signal is the guy who created WhatsApp. It's the same thing, except Facebook doesn't own it. I wonder how he got out of his non-compete, because Facebook made him sign a non-compete. Gotta wonder how that happened. Also, there are time limits on how long items are kept, such as pictures. I did not know that. Hi, Thor. I run a history page on Facebook from my little hometown of 500 people. There are 900 plus people who have liked the page and a few hundred who interact with it daily. What happens when Facebook goes in the tank? In the 3 years of existence, thousands of historic photos and articles have been archived into a database that anyone can access at any time. Is there a way to clone it and put it on the next social media that takes hold? Well, first of all, your short answer is you can download your data from Facebook. You can download your pictures, you can download your videos, you can do that. That's number one. Number two, they don't make it easy. So my thought here is, let's look at the history of social media, okay? MySpace was like one of the big first ones, right? It was huge. Everybody had a MySpace. It was for bands originally, and then every business had to have a MySpace page. Hit me up on MySpace. Very 2004. 2004. Okay? By 2010, MySpace was dead and Facebook was taking over. So in a period of 6 years, Facebook created a better product and was able to take so much market share from MySpace that they were in the toilet. So 6 years from now, one of these Facebook killer social media companies is going to create a better product that could put Facebook in the toilet within 6 years. Now, Facebook has a lot of money and a lot of marketing power. They're not gonna blow away like a duck fart in the wind like MySpace did. But imagine if you're creating a new social media company and you want to get people to move from Facebook over. Wouldn't you create an import feature that allows somebody to import all their data from Facebook, all their feed, all their history, everything? Imagine that. Imagine that as a social media company. You could download your entire Facebook life to our platform and literally close your Facebook account. That's what's coming, guys. A choice. A choice. Now, you may choose not to do it. It may cost money to be a member of the new social network. But it will be a choice at least. It'll keep them honest at least because they know people have a choice. Right now, nobody expected this to happen with social media. They thought they could just clip everybody and then, yeah, there'd be some churn, they call it in the industry. People leaving, people coming, people going. There'd be some subscription churn, but then it'll all norm out at the end and everything will go back to normal. I think Twitter's dead. I don't think anyone's going back to Twitter. No one on the right that I know is ever going to use Twitter again. There are people on the right that are still on Twitter because they spent years building an audience there. But the problem is if your audience goes away, if the people in your audience leave Twitter, what good is it to be on Twitter? And that's how social networks die. It doesn't happen overnight, guys. When you have an exodus of users, people who have always used Twitter, it takes them a little bit of time, a few months to figure out, gee whiz, Twitter's not really working the way it used to work. Where did everybody go? Well, the answer is Telegram. Now, Telegram is a different app. I just installed it yesterday on my phone. Lots of other guys have used Telegram for a long time. To describe Telegram to you, Telegram is like a mix between Facebook and instant messaging, or Facebook and text messaging, okay? So you install Telegram on your phone, and you're greeted with a great big brilliant white screen, and you're like, Okay, coach, what do I do now? You tap the little search icon in the top right. You type in somebody's name. Type in Don Jr., type in Donald Trump, type in Mark Levin, type in Thor Schrock. And you can literally add them to your Telegram. And then when that person posts things to Telegram, you get an alert saying, like, Donald Trump posted to Telegram. In fact, let me see, I got an alert here. I have a Telegram alert on my phone right now from Donald Trump Jr., who says, the U.S. government has reason to believe that several researchers inside the Wuhan lab became sick in 2019 before the first identified case of ... So literally, have you heard anything in the media right now about the fact that they're finding out that coronavirus was around back in like the fall of 19 in China? And the State Department has evidence it could have been a bioweapons experiment that got away. You're not hearing that anywhere. No one's reporting that. I just heard it on Telegram. Went to dinner with my mother and father-in-law, and literally I got up from the table to go to the restroom, came back and sat down, and I was like, well, the NRA just declared bankruptcy. And they all looked at me like, what? You're kidding, right? I'm like, no, the NRA literally declared bankruptcy this week. So, yep, they're leaving New York and going to Texas. Maybe it was about escaping leases. I don't know. But they're declaring a voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In a voluntary Chapter 11 bankruptcy, your obligations exceed your assets, so you declare that you're insolvent. So I don't understand how that you can claim this is just a move to Texas, unless they had a lease that was so expensive it would cause them to become insolvent. That they're leaving New York. And so they promise they're still going to do all the same stuff, that all the members are going to get all the member benefits. But my wife and I were just talking about, we need to join the NRA, we need to join the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, HSLDA. There's these organizations that are fighting, and we need to join them and support those organizations. And literally we're like, oh, do we still join the NRA now? I mean, they're kind of bankrupt, but are they going to... They weren't... There's some debate as to what they were doing in the first place. So anyway, to answer your question, John, I would imagine that these new social media platforms don't exist yet. So when that happens, it's not going to be an overnight flush and drain where Facebook just shuts down. It's going to be something that happens over time. Very much the way, think back to the 90s, guys. You had one cable news channel. It was CNN. Then CNN came up with headline news, which was like just the quick hit headlines from the news channel. Right? So you had CNN and you had headline news. And then you had Fox News. And that was different and weird. And then Microsoft and NBC got together to create MSNBC. And that was different. Okay. And now you've got Newsmax, which is different yet again. So what ends up happening is there's always a technology innovator that CNN, okay, the Gulf War built CNN. 24-hour news channel was not a thing before the Gulf War, where we watched the U.S. invade Iraq in real time with stealth planes stealth bombers for the first time ever, cyber warfare where we're sending infected printers into their network to take down their anti-air defenses, troops rolling over the desert faster than anyone would have ever expected. The capabilities displayed by the U.S. military in that attack were so awe-inspiring. That's where the term shock and awe actually came from. So, wow. People watched. They watched a war 24 hours a day on CNN. And they got used to watching their news on a national news channel. And meanwhile, USA Today, the national newspaper, has been losing subscribers forever. And cable news continued to add subscribers to the point where they added two more, maybe three more major cable channels. So what you have here is the innovators in the group, the MySpaces, the Facebooks. They're going to get really fat on being first movers, and then as the general public gets wise to what the product is and how it works, it's going to fragment. That's what we're seeing. How difficult would it be to make a Schrock book? We have actually looked into this, Cindy. Unfortunately, let me tell you the sad story is that if we did make our own laptop, it would be made in China exclusively. 100%. There is literally nowhere else in the world to make it. Literally. Every laptop is built in China. So at least we can say every laptop's built in China, right? The second problem that we have is chips. The chips that we can get for our laptops are not the same quality chips that HP and Dell get their hands on, because we don't produce enough quantity to get those chips. So the initial laptops that we make, we could do some things better, and we could do some things faster, but we would have to accept slower chips also. So the net wash would be, it'd be about the same as an HP or a Dell from a performance perspective. From a privacy perspective, we could do some stuff there, but we still have to run an operating system. And honestly, no one's really ready to run Linux on a, Ubuntu is there. You could run Ubuntu. It's got a graphic interface kind of like Windows. It works kind of similar to a Mac. It's like having a Mac and a Windows PC kind of rolled into one with some additional options. But like any other operating system, it's got security and privacy concerns. They're more manageable because it's open source and you can manage those things. But so how difficult would it be? It would be more difficult than when we tried to make the Allen band. It'd be a lot more difficult because we've looked into it, and the answer is we can get a laptop that's basically a tablet in a housing. It's the power of a tablet. Think like a MacBook Air, which is the power of a tablet in a housing that has a lead weight in the palm rest, so that when you lift the lid of the laptop, like you go to open it, the bottom doesn't just come up off the table too because it's so light, because there's literally nothing in it. With a 15-inch screen and a junky little processor in it, and they cost about $300 a piece. Our cost. It wasn't good enough, and so we stepped back. So maybe someday, as we explore some additional options that are unfolding for us, and we look toward some investment capital that might be coming in, maybe we could do something on a much larger scale, where we could become more of a national competitor, because that's pretty much, you have to make tens of thousands of units at least. As at Schrock, we sell a couple thousand computers a year, so that's of all the different types. So if we made a complete line, we've looked at making all-in-ones. We've looked at trying to make the modular concept. I've been looking at modular phones. They do exist, like phones with removable Wi-Fi radios and stuff. But the tech, it doesn't even approach the tech I have in my phone. So it would literally be a downgrade. And that's the stranglehold. You want the greatest and the best and the latest, you're going to have to buy from these companies like Apple. You're going to have to use operating systems like Google's Android. And there's just no choice. Right now, there's no choice. But if this keeps going the way it's going, I could see people getting a choice real quick. State Capitol in Lincoln has been barricaded with state patrol since the last Monday, the new normal. Literally, I was asking Josh when we were doing the show here, I'm like, have you guys here at KFAB heard anything? Like, is anything going to happen at the Nebraska State Capitol? I haven't heard anything. And he's like, no, I haven't heard anything. I said, does anything ever happen at the Nebraska State Capitol for an inauguration? He's like, no, nothing ever. People don't realize this. The National Guard was deployed to the rotunda in the 2016 election also. So now they weren't deployed in full battle rattle, but they were there, just like they're there now. You just didn't hear about it. So some of this stuff is different. Some of this stuff is normal. It's all the new normal. And as long as we accept the premise that the assault on the Capitol was done by terrorists, domestic terrorists, who were Donald Trump supporters, and that all Donald Trump supporters are therefore... This sounds like one of those logic puzzles. Okay, if the sky is blue, then if the sky is blue and clouds are white, then we can assume that if it is in the sky and it is white, it is a cloud. That's Logic 101. Teach people how to think. That's not always true. I can fly a kite that's white, and it's not a cloud. Okay? So, yeah, this whole thing, if we accept the premise of all this stuff, then there's no way to fight it. So the challenge is, and I was listening to some old Reagan speeches and going back and looking at stuff, and one of the things that Reagan did is he did not accept the premise that communism was strong and stable. He rejected that premise. And if you reject the premise that the Soviet Union was strong and stable, therefore it is possible that the Soviet Union is weak and frail. And it turns out he was right. Now, he could have been wrong too, but he was right in this case. So if you accept the premise that anyone who supported Trump is a domestic terrorist who deserves to be, expunged or cleansed or deprogrammed or have their children taken away or whatever, then you're letting them win. You have to reject that premise. You just have to say that's not true. And it doesn't matter. You're not trying to convince anybody. You just have to know it's not true in your heart. And if enough people in their heart know it's not true, everybody will know it's not true. Even Democrats know that's not true. Everybody knows that's not true. I know people who were at that event, and they're not domestic terrorists. They were there praying with their church, who rented a bus to drive down there. They weren't domestic. They didn't even know what happened. They got back to their hotel, and they got locked in their hotel, and they didn't know why. So, anyway. There it is. There's a link. Download your Facebook data. Good morning, Schrockville from Chile, South Dakota. Yes, but they make some great marketing videos, don't they? I didn't see any winter snow scenes in that South Dakota video, come to think of it. It was a killer video, though. All right. Do I need Mozilla's VPN? Pros and cons. Okay. Mozilla Firefox browser is made by Mozilla, and it is the most privacy-focused browser aside from Duck's browser. Duck's browser is the ultimate in privacy, but unfortunately, they are missing several key functions that make a browser, like the ability to sync your tabs between your phone, or your favorites, for example, and your passwords. They don't save passwords. They don't do anything like that. But that's all functions that modern browsers all do. So Duck's browser is very private, but it's not good as a default browser, in my opinion. Mozilla Firefox is the most privacy-focused browser. We've covered that several times. With that said, they get most of their money from Google. Google gives them a grant in order to make, anytime someone installs Firefox, Google is the default search engine. And Google gives Mozilla Foundation a ton of money to make that happen. The Mozilla Foundation consequently did come out in the midst of all this stuff and also say that the speech on the internet needs to be policed. They were lockstep with Google and Twitter and Apple and Facebook, which was really disappointing to see. It was really disappointing. Again, cleanest dirty shirt. Give me a choice. The Duck browser is a great browser, but it doesn't have modern features. It's missing. It can't save passwords. They don't want the data. They don't keep your data, right? Well, I don't want you to keep my data, but in order to cloud sync the data, they have to store the data. You can store the data encrypted so that you don't have access to it. So it's kind of a cop-out. They could do it. That's how Mozilla does it. They could do it. They choose not to do it. Why? Well, they don't exactly have a ton of money, guys. They're a nonprofit foundation that that basically survives on donations. So they don't make money. They have ads. They get some ad click revenue. So the best thing that you can do if you're using Duck is I would never encourage you to click on a business's ad just to generate revenue for Duck, because that actually takes money from small businesses that place the majority of those ads. It's called click fraud. You don't want to do that. But if you see an ad for something that you're genuinely interested in on Duck, tap the ad and look into it. Great example. I am buying a set of these things called Every Key, because in the past I've recommended password zones, where you have like a financial password and a social password and things like that. Given the current privacy situation, that's a game I'm trying to up my password game. And I know I'm supposed to have like 16-digit completely randomized passwords on everything and no password ever repeated. I know I'm supposed to do that. And if Firefox is remembering my passwords and I can use the Firefox browser on my phone to use those passwords, I don't actually have to know the password in order to use the password, which is ironic, but cool. But still, golly, creating these passwords is... So Every Key is a Bluetooth device. You can put it on your keychain. You can get a little band if you want to be a dork and wear it on your wrist. But basically, whenever you are close to anything that is Bluetooth enabled, it will automatically enter your passwords into that device on demand. So if I set up my laptop, Every Key, when I get to a page that needs a password, Every Key will fill the password. When I go to my truck will unlock because it's Bluetooth. Every Key can unlock my truck. They're like, I don't know, $100 a key, something like that. And I ordered a couple. I'm going to try them out, and if they work good, guys, I'll tell you about it. Just trying to up the privacy game a little bit. So as far as Mozilla's VPN, I don't know much about it. I know it's very new. I do know that ExpressVPN costs about $100 a year, and I think Mozilla's VPN is about the same price. But ExpressVPN has a track record. They do their job well. They have fast servers, And they didn't have boo to say about the whole social media thing. So do with that money what you will. Is Signal downloaded from the Google App Store? It is. You can get Signal from all the app stores. It's available in the Google App Store, the Amazon App Store, which is an alternative to the Google one, by the way, and also available on Apple. All right, just downloaded Signal from the Apple Store. Very easy. Yeah, it is extremely easy to install Signal. It's stupid easy. You know more about Bitcoins and the Bit community than I do. Would you mind looking at BlockFi? Oh, yeah, I've been recommending BlockFi forever, guys. BlockFi is amazing. What is it? Over 8% interest on money deposit. I understand be careful, it's a good deal, but is this an expectation? Thanks, Ron. Okay, so BlockFi is a company where you can deposit your cryptocurrency, right? If you have Bitcoin or Ethereum or any of these other cryptocurrencies, you can deposit it there and you can earn between 6 and 8% interest on your money. So, number one, it's not FDIC insured. So, you need to be prepared that any money you deposit in a okay, does anybody even FDIC insurance? Okay, so if the bank goes bust, your money is still there. Okay, that doesn't happen in crypto. Okay, crypto is the Wild West. So, don't put all of your crypto in BlockFi. But BlockFi is backed by Coinbase. Coinbase is the leader in crypto. If Coinbase goes belly up, crypto's pretty screwed. So BlockFi is probably the safest place you can put your money and earn a good interest rate return. Why are the interest rates so much higher on BlockFi than you can get in a regular savings account? Well, the interest rates are higher because the interest rates they charge are a lot higher too. So where BlockFi gets their money, this is old school banking 101, guys. This is how banks are supposed to work. So you deposit your money with BlockFi, your crypto, right? And then other people can deposit their crypto with BlockFi. They can use it as a collateral to get loans. So if I have $20,000 worth of Bitcoin and I need a $20,000 loan, but I don't want to sell my Bitcoin because I think Bitcoin's going to be worth like $40,000 later, like a month later, I can go to BlockFi, give them my $20,000 in Bitcoin to hold as collateral, and they will give me in US dollars $20,000. I still own the Bitcoin, but I have to make payments on my loan in US dollars. So I pay my loan, and they charge me an interest rate. It's usually like 17%. It's better than a credit card, not as good as a bank loan. But you can do it all online, and it's collateralized. It's a secured loan with your crypto, but you don't have to sell your crypto. So they get paid interest by people who are repaying their loans. And guess what? If people don't repay their loans, they just take their crypto. And by that time, the crypto is usually worth more than the loan was in the first place anyway. So people pay their loans. So everybody pays their loans. Then, because BlockFi is lending money, they need to be able to generate capital to lend. They need to get the US dollars somewhere, and they're telling people we're not selling your crypto, right? So they want you to deposit your crypto, which they will then take that cryptocurrency, buy it, sell it, trade it, do whatever they need to do with it to raise the capital they need to fund the loans that are then paid back, and then in exchange they give you a piece of the interest. And they pay the interest in cryptocurrency to your account. So if you deposit Bitcoin, you get interest in Bitcoin. If you deposit Ethereum, you get it in Ethereum. You can choose which crypto you want to get your interest in. I would encourage you, the only one that pays 8% on there is the stable coin deposits. Stable coins are going to be the safest. But if you're in a stable coin and Bitcoin goes up 20 grand in price, your stable coin is stable. It stays. It's stable. Bitcoin went, but you stayed right here. But you're earning 8%, you big chump. If you're on Bitcoin, you're earning 6%, which is not that much less, and you have exposure to that volatility. Normally, exposure to volatility is a bad thing in investing. In this case, the exposure is going to be good over time. Trust me on this, guys. It's going to be very good over a 3-year time period. Stay in Bitcoin. All right. There are lots of open source programs like Signal, OpenOffice, Linux, Apache, and more. You're absolutely right. There are a lot of them that are out there. I would not use OpenOffice, though. OpenOffice is a dead project, and they have got some vulnerabilities that are problems. Good morning, Leslie. My Secure Updater goes away on my taskbar, and I have to reboot to get it back. Will Secure Updater update Signal or my VPN? All right, so we are aware of the issue where Secure Updater will at times disappear. You don't have to reboot the whole computer to get it to come back. You can just relaunch Secure Updater. I won't go into the weeds on it, but we're aware of that issue. Secure Updater does not update paid programs. So your VPN is a paid program. It's not going to update that. It's also not going to update Signal because Signal is an app that runs on your phone. So Secure Updater runs on your PC. It's not going to update that. I believe there might be a Signal app in the App Store, but again, we don't update apps from the App Store because the App Stores take care of those. But we did add Zoom this last few weeks to the list of programs that we support to make sure we get those updated, and we have some plans to add some other ones coming in the future here as well. All right. DuckDuckGo works great. Yes, it does. Cheryl and Rich, hello. How are you guys doing from Council Bluffs? Can you please give us more information about Telegram? Okay, I think I did that already, but if you need more, let me know. I have a family member encourage using Telegram. Is it similar to Signal? Again, I think we've covered that. It is very similar to Signal, but it allows you to have group conversations that are disseminated. So it allows you to broadcast your message to a large audience of people. Think like Twitter without the interactions, and also direct messaging back and forth to people. I think GeoCities account might work still. If I can get connected to CompuServe, I'll check on that. Yeah, CompuServe. We need Parler back. Richard, I don't think Parler's coming back. They're going to lose the Amazon lawsuit. I wish they weren't, but they were. They are. It's a long shot. Unless they find a host that's going to take them, they aren't coming back. And it looks like the only hosts that are willing to take them are in Russia and China, and they don't want to do that. It's one of the things I was talking to buddies of mine, and I'm just like, if there were just more hours in the day, because it sounds like we need a hosting company. It sounds like we need a big hosting company. It sounds like we need a big hosting company in New Zealand, if you know what I mean. Someplace outside of the jurisdiction, a little bit. Yeah, I think we're going to need something like that. It's sad that we can't build it in America anymore, because how long is it until your power company says, we don't like, if Amazon hosts Parler, can the power company come along and say, we don't like that you're hosting Parler on Amazon here, Amazon, so you take Parler down and we're going to cut your power? Is it such a stretch? I mean, I would hate to invest a bunch of money in a business only to have it completely canceled by other businesses that are competitors. I mean, that's what Parler had happened to them. Which Telegram? Telegram Messenger? Let me make sure I get the right one. I don't want to use the wrong word. I think it's just Telegram. Are you in the Google Store or are you in the Apple Store? Let me see here. I'm going to be in the Play Store. Done. Back. All right, so Telegram. The one that I have installed is just Telegram. It's Telegram FZ-LLC. Full disclosure, Telegram is a Russian company. So it doesn't mean it's evil. It just means it's a Russian company. I want you to know that. Everything is encrypted on Telegram, end to end. Even the Russians don't know what's going on Telegram. Could you think of a better app to create in a country like China or Russia? If it's good enough for those governments, it's good enough for the good old US of A. All right. Thought for the day. Biden wants us to have a vaccine ID card, but we can't have people show an ID to vote. Let that sink in. Well, maybe we could dual purpose the cards, and that's how we get it done, right? A vaccine ID card that serves as a voter ID. Yeah. Poison pill. That's how you stop legislation, guys. Poison pill. Yeah, this vaccine thing. You probably haven't heard the news on this. Maybe you have. But a bunch of people in Denmark died in a nursing home when they gave them the virus. They all died at the same time after they got the inoculation. Health experts are now warning that the Pfizer vaccine should be avoided because of health consequences to those who are elderly. Now the official guidance is if you're somebody who is at the end of their lifespan, it may do more harm than good to get vaccinated. In other words, if you're going to die soon anyway, don't get vaccinated because it could kill you. This message brought to you by, by the way, the health officials that are warning about the Pfizer vaccine are Chinese health officials in China, where now 23 million people are currently locked down in coronavirus-related lockdowns. 23 million. The U.S. has 330 million people roughly. 23 million people are locked down in California right now. The NRA left New York because of the lawsuit filed by the New York Attorney General. Okay, so I didn't know about that. I guess. See, I don't know all the news, guys. I follow a lot, but I didn't read anything about the New York Attorney General lawsuit. I'll look into that one. I think. Oh, you think Schrock book was a Facebook competitor? Oh, I thought you meant like a MacBook. I didn't know you meant like. I thought you meant a laptop. Schrock book like a social media platform. You know what, guys? There's a rule in business that you do what you do. You do what you're good at, and you let other people do what they're good at. So I'm going to do what I'm good at, and I'm going to let other people do what they're good at. Besides, I think the problem is deeper than this. The problem isn't that we need a platform as an option. We had that with Parler. The problem is we need options in infrastructure. We need builders to build. Builders to build that aren't going to allow things to be canceled. So, in other words, we need something that can't be censored, something that will allow anyone to host anything, no matter how vile it is. Okay, so then my wife and I were talking about this. So, what about pornography, right? Do you let people host pornography on your freedom platform? And well, the answer is probably not. No. Okay, well then, what's pornography? You have to define it. Otherwise, if you don't get specific with your definitions of what pornography is, then anything can be pornography, right? Because that's what we're seeing with the left right now. If you don't, there was, these nutters that are crazy people, they started defining them as the alt-right. And people, conservatives, said, well, we're not in the alt-right. They accepted the premise that there is such a thing as the alt-right. There is this right wing of our party that's so far right that they're fascist loonies. That doesn't exist. Fascism is a function of socialism, guys. It doesn't exist in freedom. But anyway, it's not supposed to anyway. So I digress. But so basically with pornography, so is breastfeeding pornography? Okay, let's go full sick freak here. What if it's an adult breastfeeding? Is that pornography? So then we literally say, okay, so if it is a child who gets the majority of their sustenance through breast milk, then it's breastfeeding. And you're going to have to pay somebody to look at breastfeeding photos and determine, is that child getting all, you see how the content moderation just gets ridiculous? It gets completely insane. You just can't moderate it. You can't. You can let the community moderate it. That's what Twitter does. That's why everybody gets reported. And then Twitter removes it. Well, guess what? Everyone on the left mobilizes. That's one of the things I wonder. Why don't anyone on the right ever get together and mobilize to report a bunch of stuff on the left? Why don't we overwhelm the moderators with hateful posts from the left? Literally overwhelm their moderation systems. Report every post you see. Why don't we do that? I don't know. We're just not organized, I guess. I don't know. So I think we have an infrastructure problem that needs to be fixed first so the other platforms can flourish. That's one of the reasons why a blockchain social media program is something that is so attractive, because your data resides on your own tech, on your own computer. You own your data. You can take your data, delete it anytime you want, but the fact that that data exists, or whatever messages you sent, they exist on the blockchain forever. There's no takebacks, there's no mulligans, there's no deleting the tweet. If you tweet it, it's out there and it'll be out there forever. So is this not how the town square is supposed to work? If you are a crazy person who stands up on their soapbox and spouts crazy things in the town square, people should be able to walk by and say, you're crazy. And yeah, there's always going to be a couple other crazy people wandering around, right? Do you kick them off the soapbox and tell them they can't get on there ever again because they're crazy? Now, who's the soapbox policeman? Who makes sure, who allows people to have access to the town square now? That's where social media is at right now. People have kicked people off the soapbox, and they're saying we have the right to choose who gets to say something on this platform. Because it's our platform. It's our soapbox, damn it. That's the problem. Why can't Joe Biden just change things now by issuing edicts from the office of the president-elect? Well, they're currently writing executive orders. His team is already writing the executive orders. Presidents don't write their own executive orders. They may say, I want an executive order that does this, but literally there's so many things on day one that is supposed to be done. I hope he's got one of those little squeezer strength hand things, or maybe he's got a stress ball he squeezes to build up his hand strength, because he's going to be so tired from signing stuff on day one that his hand is going to be cramped up. But that's the problem with the imperial presidency. If you live by the sword, you die by the sword. And we got a lot of deregulation done because Trump could do it with the executive order. And Obama got a lot of regulation done. Remember when Obama regulated ponds and puddles, literally puddles, as protected navigable waterways? Your pond on your farm is a navigable waterway now that the EPA can actually regulate. You can't take water from your pond. Sorry. What? It's on my land. It's my pond. Nope, it's not your pond. You don't own that. Yeah, literally, you don't own that. That was all done through executive orders. So, you want to clip executive orders, you kind of need to have a functional legislative branch to do that. And right now, the legislative branch is pretty clearly broken. How would you like to be the guy in Germany who has over $230 million worth of Bitcoins and can't remember the password and he has 2 attempts left? I saw that story. I'm like, dude, that's... Now, first of all, I'm wondering, where are these Bitcoins locked up that he only has 2 attempts left at his password? I'm sure it's legit, but yeah, I just never heard of that. Like, you only have 2 attempts left. What kind of wallet are you using? Maybe it's a hardware wallet of some sort. Secondly, $230 million and he's got 2 password attempts left. That's when you start to lose sleep at night. Like, when I typed the password, was the caps lock key on? Should I try it without the caps lock key? I'm pretty sure the caps lock key was off. I think it was off. That's when you start having those kind of conversations in your sleep. What can I use to replace OpenOffice? Oh, LibreOffice. LibreOffice. I'm going to type it in here so you get it. LibreOffice. It's created by the same people who created OpenOffice. OpenOffice, there was some conflict on the team. LibreOffice went a different way. It actually has more support for more different document types. It's what we install by default on all modular computers. It's also supported through Secure Updater. So if you want to try LibreOffice, you can go down to your Secure Updater icon in the lower right-hand corner by your clock, right-click on it, click on Select Programs. And when you go to your Select Programs, you can scroll down to LibreOffice, click on that, hit OK, and then click Update, and it'll automatically download and install LibreOffice for you. You don't even have to go to the internet to get it. But it works. It looks and feels exactly like Word in 2010. So if you're used to 2010 Microsoft Office, you won't even notice the difference hardly. If you're used to the new ribbon interface that they brought out in 2013, it can be a little bit of a culture shock at first, but it's just where things are out of the menus. All the functionality is still there. Mark says, good morning from Grand Island. Whoa, wait a minute. That went way back to the start. I hate that. When I type a response to people, it goes back to the start. Here we go. The guy that invented the World Wide Web is working on a blockchain-style new internet. Yep, and the guy that invented the very first social media network ever, that of course I'd never heard of before because it didn't last long, Lifescapes, I think he called it, is the guy that's creating the Facebook developer, Facebook Killer Kit, that is going to allow people to develop social media networks of their own on the blockchain as well. Is there a hosting platform in America that is not as acceptable to outside forces? Signal is a potential example, but there are some other methods not broadly used. This is true. Signal owns a lot of their own hardware, though, and that's one of the things. Also, that's why Gab is still online. Gab, the social media network, they own their own hardware. So literally now, you have to be a hosting company if you want to host stuff, and this is how Amazon became a hosting company. Amazon was an online sales force. They were a place you could sell stuff, primarily books at first. Well, they had to put their website on the internet, which means they had to pay for hosting, which was an expense. And at some point, somewhere along the line, they said, wouldn't it be cheaper if we just owned the servers? And they said, sure. So they bought the servers. And they said, well, now we need firewalls. And now we need extra redundancy on bandwidth. We need to have different internet service providers. We have to have all this extra stuff that we didn't anticipate. Maybe we can recoup some of this money we're spending by selling some of our unused portion of what we have to other people. And that's how Amazon hosting was born. And that's how it became cloud hosting as we know it today. So as a result, anybody can be a cloud host. Anybody just has to have a hosting company. What do you need to have a hosting company? You need to have redundant internet. You have to have redundant power. You have to have servers, obviously. And you have to have racks, switches, and equipment. So you need money to put into hardware. You need a place to put the data center. You need cooling for the data center. And you need technicians that know how to fix stuff. Anybody that does that can become a hosting company. So are there hosting companies out there that are not as susceptible? Oh yeah, there's lots that say they are. For example, if Amazon cut Schrock Innovations off tomorrow, let me see, what would stop working? You wouldn't be able to buy products off our website. Drive Advisor alerts wouldn't happen anymore. Secure Updater updates wouldn't go through. What else? We wouldn't be able to send robocalls or text messages anymore. Like literally, Amazon is like the only choice. This is what the problem that Parler's having. There's nowhere else to go. So I'm sitting here thinking to myself, maybe someday in my next life, whenever the heck that is, maybe I start a hosting company. And we call it something stupid like Freedom Host, where we'll host anything. And, and then everyone will say it's where all the child pornographers go to post their stuff. And, where all the hate people go to post their racist stuff. And then that's what it'll become. I don't know what the solution to that is. It's not a super serious thing in my brain to the point where I put that much thought into it yet. But I think that we need infrastructure before we need the platform. Telegram was created in Russia, but it is now banned there. The creator has since moved to Germany. Well, there you go. If you needed some incentive to use Telegram, the Russians don't like it. There you go. Yes, but the ones at the top aren't interested in changing the status quo. Well, here's the thing. I was on the way in this morning. I was listening to Fox Business and on XM, and they were talking about Ronald Reagan in the fall of. It was Charles Payne hosting a virtual town hall about communism versus capitalism. And he had the guy from Goya Foods on, and he had the guy, remember the guy that gave all of his employees $70,000 a year, paid everybody the same price, and then he ended the experiment later because it didn't work out well, but then, whatever. It was an example of trying to more equally redistribute the wealth of the company among its workers. And he cites all these, statistics. We have, 70% uptick in home ownership in our employees now. 90% of employees reported they paid down debt. This, that, the other. All these positive life things happen for the people that worked at the company because they got paid more money. The idea being, should we have a $15 an hour minimum wage? Was the kind of the question. Well, Ronald Reagan was of the opinion that people left to their own devices will make choices that benefit them. The problem is there are people in the world that don't want to be responsible for making their choices. They want to make whatever choice makes sense in the moment or feels good or is not long-term best. I had this discussion with one of my employees who came in every morning rocking 2 sausage, egg, and cheese McGriddles from Mickey D's. And, I understand the deliciousness that is that artificial, somehow syrup-tasting bun that's not sticky somehow, but tastes just like maple syrup. On the delicious sausage patty with the egg in there and the cheese melted, I understand, my man. But eating 2 of those a day is going to destroy your body. Don't do that. People don't want to be responsible for their choices. So that's something that's got to get fixed, I think. The people who end up at the top are the people who made the best choices. The people who end up at the bottom made the worst choices. And once your choices are made, sometimes they can't be unmade. So I think that, I was thinking about this from an entrepreneurial perspective. No one teaches entrepreneurism in school. Maybe in my future life, I'll create some kind of nonprofit thing where we help people start businesses. We help people get out of the bottom and start their march to the top. That's what the American dream was always about before. The American dream was never go to college and go get a good job and work 30 years for the same company. The American dream was if you work hard, you'll get ahead. Well, the world has changed. So you still need to work hard and you can still get ahead. But if you use the formula from 30 years ago expecting it to work today, it's not going to work. That's why you're not getting ahead. So you got to change the formula. So no one's teaching kids this in school. They just teach them the same thing they've been teaching them for 200 years. Well, not quite the same thing, but a lot of the same stuff. All right, you're right. Blockchain messaging is an example of another hosting method, but not entirely if it depends on large. Well, yeah, it would have to. Well, here's the problem. How many of you could store your entire social media life? Like the guy that was saying he had 900 plus people posting on social media. You have to store all that historical data on a computer so that it can be accessed by the blockchain. So you have to have your own server, your own life server. Maybe that's a whole new line of things. Your life server. Keep it in your home. It's a battery backup built in, whatever else. But you either need to have a place you can trust to host stuff, or you need to have a live server. Maybe something that would be interesting would be something where you could purchase a chunk of a hosting company. So if the hosting company was a nonprofit organization and it actually sold chunks of computing that you owned and just took care of your infrastructure, almost like communism for hosting, right? Except you pay for it. And of course, over time, your equipment will age and you'll need to buy new equipment. You'll have to pay to have it maintained. So think about it more like a timeshare for hosting. That could work. I'll have to think on that. Just had that idea just now. It's kind of crazy. Alrighty. Alice, I use Libre and it works just fine. All right, guys. Last call for questions here because we are very, very long in the tooth here on the show, and I've got some things to get going and get to here on Sunday. But I want to thank you all for joining us on the program, for being a part of the show, for being a part of the Aftershock. Please remember, I know right now social media is a mess, but social media is still one of the only ways that we reach people outside of the radio show. So like us, share the program, especially if you have friends that are like-minded and, they're. I know people who were not sleeping because of everything from the last couple of weeks, people who were just in despair. I received a letter at you know what that person had to go through to get my home address? To send me a letter at my house that my bulldog wife opened. She was like, this is going to be hate mail. She was like filtering my mail for me. I was like, wow, I didn't know I had that kind of service around here. But then she saw it was a really kind letter, an appreciative letter. And she was like, oh my gosh, this is the first fan mail we've ever received at my house. I did receive a wedding invite at my house from a top fan on this program, but I did not. This is the first fan mail I've ever received, and it really made my day. I got home from a long shift that day. My feet hurt, my knees hurt, my hip hurt because I fell on the ice the other day, and I was just like, I just want to go to bed. And I get this beautiful letter, and I was just like, oh, this is so nice. This is why I'm doing this. So anyway, thank you for that. Thank you for taking the time to do that. Thank you for sharing the program and helping us spread the word. Choose to keep your data private at this point. It's not. Here's the thing. Let's not accept the premise that only people who are doing something evil are people who want to be private. Privacy is valuable. Your data is valuable. That's why a lot of these blockchain things, you actually get paid, but companies will still want access to your data, right? They're still going to want to be able to develop a better marketing profile for you. But now the difference is they have to pay you to get access to your data. You could get an income off of your social media feed, not because you're an influencer, but because everybody wants access to it to market things better to you. Well, they're paying you money so that they can market to you. Is that not better than the situation we have now? Or you could choose, I don't want to be marketed to. You could just choose to not be a part of it whatsoever. It gives you the power as a consumer. So I think blockchain is going to be one of the technologies in the next 20 years that will re-democratize America. So that's why I talk about Bitcoin. And that's why I talk about Ethereum. That's why I encourage you to own a little bit of cryptocurrency. You don't have to go nuts and go buy a whole Bitcoin and take a second mortgage or anything. Have a little bit of crypto. Number one, it appreciates really nicely. There's only 21 million Bitcoins that will ever exist, not enough for every millionaire on the planet to buy one. So if you have a fraction of one, do a Google search for how much Bitcoin do I have to be a 1%er? And if you have like half a Bitcoin, you're in the top 5% of the world. It's pretty crazy. So anyway, I'll leave you with those thoughts, guys. Thank you very much for joining us on the program. Have a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you all here again next Sunday for another edition of Compute This.